So AJ, I have to say that I've really enjoyed getting to meet you in Chiang Mai because you're an internet marketer that is really enthusiastic about internet marketing. You're not jaded, you're not bitter, you're not hardened, and that's so refreshing, and I so enjoy hearing you talk about product launches and share your knowledge about conversion optimization. So can you tell our audience more about who you are, what you do, and how exactly you got to where you are now? And was there an aha moment that actually inspired you to start, to embark on a lifestyle business adventure?
Sure, yeah. Well, I think the service company that I run at the moment, a company called conversions.io, same name as the website, we specialize in helping people solve the problem of how do they get more leads into their business, how do they make more sales, and in many cases, how they do a successful product launch. The business really started by accident this time round in that I had to take most of 2012 off due to illness. And when I'd recovered from illness and got out of hospital, I was speaking with some marketing friends and asking them what's the state of the market, how a launch is going. And everyone was talking about the fact that launches were getting less successful and more people were struggling. And I was like, oh, okay, that surprises me. What are your test results? What have your marketing tests shown? And people were like, what tests? And I'm not talking about amateurs. These are guys who regularly do multi-six-figure, in a couple of cases, seven-figure plus launches, who didn't test. And that, rather than aha moment, that was a shocking moment for me. I've been online working for myself or running small businesses since the mid-2000s. And very early on, I was given a copy of an ebook by a guy who, unfortunately, is dead now, a guy called Corey Riddell. Absolute marketing genius. One of the sort of groundbreaking guys in internet marketing who was looking at taking products online. He started selling books online, I believe. And it was chapter 3 or chapter 4 of his book. He said, you test headlines, you test things. And he had an example where he was selling a book on like 50 tips on things you could do with your car. One of them was how to buy a car at a couple of % over cost price. And all the feedback he had from marketing the book was that actually that was worth buying the book alone for. So he rewrote his headline just talking about how to buy a car at a couple of points off manufacturing cost, and sales went up 300%. And he then became a testing advocate, testing everything he put out there. And in my ignorance, I didn't know any better. He was an expert. He said test everything, so I've been testing things for 8 years.
So what do you think caused these internet marketing gurus who are seasoned in product launches to think that product launches are going out of style?
I think what happens is that people get into a habit, so they get used to doing a launch in a particular way, they get used to making a certain kind of product, and the market will change if people don't pay attention to how the psychology of the market is changing, or the different technologies that are out there, or the different commercial pressures. I mean, the economy has been in the tank all around the globe. Various different economies the last 4 or 5 years have had different struggles. So if you're trying to sell a $2,000 home study course now, the way that you could have done in 2009, it's not going to work. And that's the real advantage of testing, is that if you go out and make these little tests, these little samples, dipping your toe into the digital water, for example, you can very quickly take the pulse of a market, you can very quickly work out what it is that they're more likely to buy, and then your whole job is actually easier because you're only building things that people really want. Your sales process is easier because you know people want it, and specifically you know who wants it and where you can find them. And that means you can have some incredibly successful launches. And it doesn't need to be very technical or very big guru-esque. There was a launch we were working on last year with a father and son team, very, very passionate about food health and the contamination of the food chain in America. They organised a tele-seminar, so they arranged to interview experts, people who are superbly passionate about what they were doing and about the threats facing the average American family's food table. And people signed up to listen for free, and if they missed any of the events, they could buy a copy of all the interviews and get some transcripts. No one was selling anything. It was just the opportunity to listen in live, and if you missed out, or you wanted to re-listen, or you wanted the transcripts, then you could buy a copy of that. And that was a multi-six-figure launch, just under $500,000, that was raised in 3 weeks of pre-launch, 2 weeks of the event, and the majority of the money that was raised then went back into a foundation to help further educational sort of content around this sort of the food issues and what the GMO risk is to the American dinner table.
I'm amazed that a telesummit about GMOs was so successful based simply on the sale of the digital downloads of the actual, virtual event itself.
Sure, it wasn't just GMOs that was one of the, or a couple of the speakers, so there were like 12 speakers. But if you think about it, if you get a passionate audience that has a real problem and you give them the information that they need to solve that problem and you're educating them about something that's, life-threatening, why wouldn't, if you're interested in your food health, if you're interested in what you're accidentally putting into the lunchbox of your children, aren't you going to want to know? Aren't you going to want to get the most information you can in that situation?
Yeah, do you think it's possible for someone to replicate that success? When I looked into this telesummit, the people that were behind the event are actually, very well known in the organic and healthy food market, but also they have a gigantic list already. Can someone replicate the success of this, food telesummit, but start with no list and actually have, no recognition in the field?
Yeah, I think that it's always one of those questions, isn't it? It's catch-22. Where do you start if you don't have a list and you don't have a product? How do you make money online? How do you create that kind of event? It's my belief and experience that actually creating a product is the best way to create a list, principally because you're going to be collecting lists of buyers, people who are prepared to pay money to solve the problem that they have, and a buyer's list is worth 10, 100 times the value of a much bigger list of free subscribers, or say friends on Facebook or fans of a Facebook page, or even blog readership. People have actually paid money to have a problem solved, have put their hand up and said, this is an important enough problem, I'm prepared to exchange real value to have that addressed. So what you can do is you can create a product that will give you a seed list. Say you created a product that you made 100 sales or a couple of hundred sales. That list then becomes a seed of your business, because you can use that list to promote the idea of an interview-based event. Once you've got feedback from that list that they would be interested, you could go to other speakers who perhaps have more authority or more longevity in the market, therefore they will have a bigger list. By organising and hosting the event, you're taking the logistical headache away from the other speakers, and in return they're going to come along and talk about the issues, and normally it's a passion-based issue or it's a purposeful thing like anti-GMOs or how to start a not-for-profit, or how companies like Tom's Shoes can have a commercial benefit in one country and then charitable benefit in another. So by being the organizer and taking the entrepreneurial risk of sorting out the logistics, you can attract other speakers, and that then gives you the ability to snowball the model on to the next time. It's not the one I would choose to start with, because running an event like that is a logistical nightmare if you've never done it before.
I've done it before. It's so much work. So you're talking about the telesummit as the product?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think that if people want to get started, an easier way of doing things would just be to create their own first product. We've spoken before about the pros and cons of information marketing. Mm-hmm. And I think the big advantage is that you can do it with a laptop. You could even do it in with access to a shared computer if you had enough time on it. In many cases, there are situations out there where people have a pressing problem, they're short of time, they're short of the right information to understand how to solve that problem. And if you can aggregate the information, you can package it up in a way that's easy to disseminate, easy to understand, and most importantly, probably easy to action. So a set of instructions that make sense for people, that they can get a predictable result, then you have a product. If you take one problem and solve just that one problem elegantly, you've got one problem, you've got one solution, that's a great little product.
Well, it's interesting because in the internet marketing world, there's a lot of discussion about not creating your product until you've pre-sold it first. So, I think one of the dangers that a lot of people run into is that they go and they spend a lot of time creating a product, and they have this product, and then they go try to get out into the market, and they haven't already made a connection with the audience in whatever market that they're trying to, enter into, and then they find that they're not making any sales. So how do you, address the chicken or the egg situation of, okay, do you create the product first or pre-sell it first, or do you create the audience first? I see people like John Lee Dumas, who started Entrepreneur on Fire, and he just went, balls out and, podcasting and creating a massive audience before he even had anything to sell. But that audience is now with him the entire time. So you can sell a number of things to this audience because they're just his, raving fans. Same with, David Siteman Garland as well. His audience around The Rise to the Top is huge. So what should we focus on first if we're just getting started? Nobody knows who the hell we are. We don't yet have a product. We have no list. What do we do?
Well, I think the question of pre-selling is great, but as you've already identified, you can only pre-sell if you have an audience to sell to. Mm-hmm. So there's got to be the know, like, trust factor. Otherwise, you're trying to ask people who don't know you for money for a product you haven't yet built. That, I think, is too much of a stretch for most people. So the way I would do it, again, it comes back to simple market testing and market research. You could start with people are passionate about something. People have some inherent knowledge, even if it's their day job on how they do a particular thing at work. You can research to find people with a similar problem, or you could just decide that you're going to solve a problem in a particular area because you're interested in that area. Find a group of people that have a problem, and there are loads of ways of looking at this. You can look at social media, you can look at forums. One of the big advantages of things like forums is that behind the anonymity of a forum name, people become very honest. The disadvantage of social media is that it's social, it's public. You put something on your Facebook page, it's there for the world to see. Google doesn't forget anything. Whereas inside a forum, people have protected with a level of anonymity, so they're more likely to be open about personal issues, about the fact they can't relate to their parents, or they have some sibling rivalry, or they're having real problems with their marital partner, because the anonymity gives them the protection to share their feelings, to share their emotional pain. And from a commercial point of view, the bigger the pain that people want to move away from, the easier it is to make a sale. And I don't mean that in a manipulative way. I mean that if someone is in desperate need for the solution to how do I get on well with my, we reached that 7-year itch in our marriage and desperately love my partner, but I can't stand the way they do blah, there's a real issue there. And because it's a heartfelt issue, because it's central to that person's life, they're going to pay for the right information that solves that problem because they want to maintain that relationship. And I think understanding the market first is the error that most people make, in that they don't. They sit down, they create a product in isolation because they've got a really cool idea. They spend weeks, or in some cases months and months and months, working on the perfect product, only to realise they then have to find an audience for it. The flip side is that you get some people who understand the market really well, understand the market drives and desires, produce a rubbish product, but it sells out. I mean, you get hundreds of thousands of that. I think if you could look at the best metaphor is probably the publishing world, in that you could look at best-selling authors, make my normal complaint on this, you could look at someone like Dan Brown. Amazing marketing machine. Very, very quick reads. Page turners at the airport, Pulp Fiction. From my point of view, literary value, my toaster's got more literary skill.
Okay, I don't know who Dan Brown is. What does he write?
The Da Vinci Code.
Oh, okay. It's very entertaining.
Right, but I have a first-class degree in English literature. I love words. I'm not a Dan Brown fan from an author's point of view, and it's a really good example of the best-selling book is not the best written book, not by a long way. Mm-hmm. So I think the difference between a successful product and an unsuccessful product, unfortunately, is more to do with the marketing of the product than the product itself. There are notable exceptions. You can build something that is remarkable and will pick up word of mouth and people will talk about it. But in most cases, those rubbishy products that you've seen that sell really well, they sell really well because the marketing has been done well. They understand what the market thinks it wants. They present the product as a solution to that want or that need, and then they rake in the cash.
Okay, so you recommend spending some time researching the problem areas, and specifically within forums related to that market.
Forums is a great place. I normally start my research today on Amazon. Mm-hmm. If you look at a product in Amazon, you'll get people's feedback, you'll get reviewers' comments. So you can see, they bought a book on how to start their first WordPress blog. And you'll get comments saying, oh, this was great, I love the step-by-step approach. You get someone else who comment in, well, it didn't really tell me to do anything other than just get a blog up. It didn't tell me how to blog. So by reading 20 or 30 comments, you'll see what the market likes and doesn't like about the book. And you can do that over 3 or 4 books, or 20 books, or 30 books, or however extensive your research is. And the readers' comments about the books will tell you what they actually wanted and what they found was good and what was missing and what they would like. That gives you your skeleton from which you can then start to say, okay, so if I'm going to build a blog, if I'm going to build a product that's going to teach people, how to run their first WordPress blog, maybe it's for a charity, so there's not a lot of funding involved, what are the things that people have liked in other books? What are the things that have been missing in other books? And that gives you your template to start defining your product.
So you wouldn't even let a very crowded marketplace deter you. Because for example, one of the things that I think about, I'm pulling together a membership site to help people who consider themselves to be social entrepreneurs, sustainable businesses, change makers, basically launch an online presence. And so when I look at the marketplace, there's a lot of courses about how to start an online business. And I guess, I do wonder, is it already too crowded? Is there enough of, the pie for me to, enter, to grab, so to speak, in terms of, and also would my unique perspective on providing information around starting an online business that has a focus on positive social change, would that be enough value for someone to buy my product over somebody else that might just be a pure online marketing, or internet business guru? And we know so many of them that are selling, how to start a business online, who are really big names,
Well, I think that there's a couple of things there. To take the last point first, most people selling how to build a business online aren't. They're selling how to make money online, and the two are completely different. I think the challenge is a lot of people when they first come online, there's a level of desperation or need or hunger. Maybe there's threats of layoff at work, maybe they've lost their job, maybe there's some huge credit card bills have come in. So the first desire of most people is actually to make money online, not to run a business. Running a business is a completely different mindset. And there are very few courses out there that actually teach people how to run a business versus how to do, this internet marketing thing. It seems to be that if you put the word internet in front of something, it's got a completely different set of rules. But a business is a business. To your first point about how busy the market is, I always want a hungry market. You can have the best product in the world, but if there's no market for it, you're going to have a very difficult time selling it. So lots of people in a space, lots of competition, I actually think is a good thing. You hit the nail on the head though when you said that you have a particular bias, a particular focus. People who want to start the not-for-profit, the entrepreneurs who are out to create a change. Imagine a situation that you discover you have a brain tumour. Who are you going to see? Brain surgeon or a general practitioner, an MD who can treat anything? You're going to go specifically to the brain
expert. Surgeon,
right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So if I am an entrepreneur looking to build a social enterprise, am I going to go for one of the big name guys out there or girls out there who just talks about how you can make $1 squillion by copying 10% of what I do? Or am I going to go to the person who says, if you are X, this is exactly what you need to do. So if you are an entrepreneur looking for social change, here's how you write your blog. Here's how you do a teleseminar to raise funds for your project. Here's how you do a Kickstarter project to raise funds for your gizmo or gadget or whatever. So the context makes it applicable. Because you could have a general how to make money online program, but there isn't anyone generally trying to make money online. We all have our own personal context. We have our personal histories. We have our personal filters of how we see and interact with the world. So if you can tune into a tribe or an audience that either you see the world the same way they do, or they see the world the same way you do, or you can help them see the world the way you do, then you're going to have huge affinity with that audience, rather than just another Frank Kern course or another Jeff Walker course, all of which are great if you're in that space for that kind of product.
Okay, so market research is absolutely critical. Now, I remember in your presentation about conversion optimization, which we will link to in the show notes, you had mentioned the importance of coming up with the customer avatar. Now, I've come across this exercise many times, and I've done it myself, but I think one of the challenges, how do you know if that is truly your avatar? How do you know if this person is really, between the ages of 30 and 45? and, earns X amount of, dollars per year and has 2 kids. How do you, validate that the person you think is going to buy your product is actually that person?
Put your product for sale, see who buys it.
Okay, so you create a product.
Well, I wouldn't create the product first. If I was entering a new market and I needed to work out who the customer avatar was, I would do my personal research and I would think about it. I would have a look online. There are various tools out there that will give you the demographic data about certain high-profile websites. So, for example, if you know that you believe that your avatar is 30 to 40-year-old woman, probably living on the west coast of America, and, professional career but now has children, you can profile that woman and you can find what websites are they likely to be looking at, and then you could find 2 or 3 sites that, according to sites like Quantcast or Compete, these sites give you demographic data of the internet, so you can find, they'll have the data on certain sites that will tell you which news sites are more attractive to certain demographics, just because they've got all the data, they study all of this. You can then say, okay, if I advertise my product in the way I think it should be sold and put it in front of that audience, will they buy? Equally, you could do the reverse. You could put a product up for sale in a more general space, trying to use Facebook to gather some traffic, or maybe you do a joint venture with someone who has an email marketing list. Then you could look at the buyer data that comes in. So you could profile the buyers, and your analytics will tell you what region, probably what city they're coming from. You can work out information about their geography. As we talked about in the conversion course, we found people from certain states in America were twice as likely to buy a product on vegan and vegetarian food than they are in other states. And that was across a huge sample size. We're talking 500,000 people that went through that launch. So you can take your marketing to the audience you think is going to buy it and try and sell it. Or you can sell your product and then interview your audience afterwards and find out who they are, why they bought, what they liked, what they didn't like, and that gives you the information and qualify your marketing to say, okay, actually we know the product's actually probably geared more towards a 40-plus lady whose children might be of a different age, if it's, a career course or something like that. So taking time to stop and look at the data, I think, is the single most valuable thing that most people don't do. So
you would come up with a hypothesis of who your customer avatar might be, and then, let's say you have an initial prototype product. Yeah. Then you would go and buy the traffic by, placing display, banner ads or pay-per-click ads, and then actually see or validate whether or not your assumption about who this, ideal customer is actually matches up.
Exactly. I mean, a good cheap way of doing this, you could take $100 and go to Facebook. One of the advantages of Facebook is that their advertising allows you to segment traffic by age. So I've got $100, I'll buy 5, I'll put the same advert up, same picture, same headline, but I'll target one group, say 30 to 32, 33 to 34, 35 to 37, etc. So I'll split my traffic of my target demographic up over 5 buckets. I'll have the same ad, so everything's the same. The only difference is what are the age groups, and then I will track the performance of each of those ads, and it might be that the 37 to 39 ad generates the most sales for my $20. So I now think, oh, okay, maybe 37 to 39-year-old women are my sweet spot for that particular product. So things like Facebook allow you to do very rapid testing because it's amazing demographics. You can really, you can specify that you want a certain age, a certain sex, male or female, a certain town, and qualify that by interest, whether they watch Game of Thrones or not, whether they are a fan of HBO, whether they listen to PBR broadcasts. You can get really super specific. You can ask them whether they're vegetarian, whether they're single, whether they're in a relationship. Facebook has all of this data, so you can very accurately profile and test your hypotheses of who is going to buy the product. And you don't even need a product to sell to begin with. You could just have a free report or a giveaway or a sample, and then count the opt-ins and count the opt-in as a pseudo sale. So if you get 100 people from each of those age brackets, and you get 30 people opting in one group and 20 people opting in another, it's reasonable to assume, and then it is an assumption, but it's reasonable to assume the category that has more takers of your free offer is a good candidate to then go back and sell your paid offer to.
I love that advice. That is actionable, it's low cost, it's low risk, and it's a great way to test the waters. Thank you so much for sharing that. So I think, one of the challenges that I find, and you mentioned this before as well, in the beginning of our conversation, which is you were out of commission for a while, due to health reasons. And I too, came across a personal incident or, drama, event that lasted for several months that really impacted my business. And one of the big lessons from that experience is really the need to take myself out of my business and to put together, some kind of, or to have more of a residual or passive income strategy in place. And so you and I have kind of touched upon the automated sales funnel. I would love for you to explain to our audience more about how that works and whether that can work in a number of different audiences. Because, I understand that, this is quite a popular thing in the internet marketing world, especially when you're selling make money online type of products. But, is this possible in the, organic, food world or, any holistic health world? I mean, can you set up an automated sales funnel for any type of market niche? And what would that look like?
Okay, first thing I want to do is dispel a myth about passive income. I think the word is completely wrong, because in order to get to a state where you have money flowing to you, you must have put in a lot of work beforehand. So passive for me implies you don't do any work, and in my experience, you don't do anything, you don't get any reward. I'm a big believer in automated sales funnels. I'm a big believer in recurring income streams, and I prefer to think along those terms, because even if you have the perfect sales funnel, you still need to watch it. You still need to track your data. The market will change, the internet might change, Facebook might lose popularity over the next big thing. So I don't think there's any true hands-off process, but there are ways of creating systems that require minimal maintenance or minimal overhead. And these do work in a whole range of niches. I'm working with clients in the alternative therapy space, in sort of EFT and hypnosis. We've got a project in a food intolerance niche, which again we're using completely driven by Facebook. We've been very successful targeting the demographic data using Facebook. So, I mean, a sales funnel in effect is a sales page where someone comes to buy something, and a thank you page where they get the thing, or they get notification that the thing is going to be sent to them through the post, or they can download some resources online. A more complex sales funnel might have a lead capture process at the beginning, so you can ask people for their email address, giving them something in return for that, and then you make a sales offer. You could get a little bit more complicated by adding more upgrades or offers in. A really good example of this that's not in the internet marketing space, for example, is the Beachbody program, the health and fitness programs. Phenomenally successful marketing company. And there's loads of things you can learn from looking at how they do what they do. So if you go online and you buy their $97 or $99 course, I bought Insanity a while back, and it is truly insane. So when you buy the course, you then have the option of getting the health supplements or the food replacement meals that go with it in case you're trying to lose weight, you want to get a better result. Then I didn't buy any of the upgrades, but these were the upgrades that I was offered as I went through the sales funnel. I could then buy another type. I could buy a pack of all the little exercise things that I might need to go along with it, skipping rope or jump rope and yoga mats and things like that. You could also join the paid membership site, which was basically a paid forum where you'd hang out with other people who were silly enough to decide that they were going to put themselves through insane levels of workouts an hour a day for 60 days. And what they're doing is they're saying to someone, you've got a problem, you want to get fit or lose weight or both. We have this first product that will get you a great result. And we've got other products that will help you get a bigger result, or they'll get faster result, or in the case of the forum, the community, we're going to help you create a social support network that will ensure you keep going, and it provides that motivation, that accountability, because doing a fitness course by yourself at home for 60 days in a row is quite isolating. So what they've done for their sales funnel is they've taken the original product and offered things that would help you get a bigger result or a faster result or a more guaranteed result as different options after you make that first purchase.
So all these offers are delivered through a series of emails?
No, they're at the point of sale. So you say, okay, I guess I want the Insanity product, and then you offered the upgrade to get the supplements, then you offered the upgrade to get the access to the membership area, for example.
So is it kind of like a recurring series of different web pages that are presenting the offer, or is it kind of like a menu that you get?
With Beachbody, it's the former. So you say, okay, yes, I want this information. And again, it goes back to what we said before about solving one problem with one solution. I think if you were offered a page which said, here are the 14 different programs you can buy, actually it's really confusing.
Yeah, totally.
And there are loads of studies that have been done. I think it's nicknamed a jam test, where marketers have gone into like a supermarket or a food mall and they've said, here are 24 jams you can sample. And people will sample 2 or 3, or maybe 3 or 4, but they can't make a decision as to which one to buy because they've sampled 4 out of 24 jams. They don't know if the other 20 are better tasting. But if the same marketer went into a food hall and said, here are 4 jams or 6 jams, you could taste all or most of them and then make a decision between them which one to buy. So when you're marketing to people, it's easier to give them either no choice, so this is the solution for your problem, or to give them a very limited choice. You could have the basic solution, you can have the advanced solution, or you can have the deluxe solution, and take the intellectual pressure away from them of having to make something really complicated, like how do I know which one of these products is the best one for me when I haven't bought them yet?
Yeah, I think, not creating consumer anxiety and presenting the consumer with a multitude of choices is a really great option, because what ends up happening is like they end up buying nothing.
Yeah.
Typically.
And I think it's from the Robert Collier letters, one of the classic sort of books on business marketing. He suggests that you should enter the conversation that's already taking place in your prospect's mind. So if they've got an issue about food, if they've got an issue about weight loss, if they've got an issue about how do I go out and create something that is remarkable, that changes the community I particularly care about, if you understand that market, you know what they're already thinking. You've read their reviews, you've read their blogs, you've read their forum posts, you've seen their social media communications. You get an idea of what's already, the conversation that's already going on, the angst, the issues they've got. So by presenting the solution using their own language in a way that reflects what they're currently thinking, it's very easy for people to make that decision to buy.
Now, with regards to the automated sales funnel, I mean, how do these sales funnels keep on selling? So I can imagine like you've bought the initial product and then you're, offered the upsells and downsells, like, during the checkout process. But at a certain point, a person's going to be fatigued by all these offers and just be like, okay, I'm done shopping, okay? So then how does the company continue to engage that person? Is it, going to be now through a strategy of permission-based marketing where you're sending the person emails that has value, like value email 1, value email 2, value email 3 within certain intervals, and then offer value, 4, value 5, value 6 offer, like for years to come. Is that what the rest of the sales funnel looks like?
It can do. I mean, I think the 2 parts of the question regarding the automation, one is how do they get more customers into the funnel, and one is how does the funnel keep selling. Mm-hmm. I think people forget about the first bit, that you've got to have more people coming into the sales funnel for it to be automated. So it's okay getting people to a sales page and then having a series of offers that they go through, and you're completely right with the permission-based marketing, having an email sequence that follows up and continues to add value and at the same time make appropriate offers. I think the thing that most people overlook is that the automation also needs to be on the front end, how you get more traffic, in real terms, how you get people to keep coming and looking at your webpage, which is why for me, and I think you'll find this with the biggest and most successful companies that market online, we all using paid traffic. There's a lot of talk about, free traffic or search engine optimized traffic, and people will blog or write content or, put videos out on YouTube. There are lots of things you can do to generate traffic. There's no such thing as free traffic, and everything has a cost of production. So if you're creating a video, if you're writing an article, if you're blogging, all of those things take time, and that time has an opportunity cost. You could, buy someone to write your articles for you, or you could give up your time to write them. Equally, you could just go and buy advertising. You mentioned display ads, pay-per-click. We've talked about Facebook already. My experience is that the people who invest the time and knowledge in learning how to get paid traffic that works, paid traffic that buys, they're the people who make the most successful sales funnels, because you need a constant supply of new people coming in. let's say we have a product that's teaching people a new way of cooking food that only uses organic, healthy ingredients. There are lots of upsells, lots of other email offers you could make once someone's put their hand up and said, yes, I'm prepared to pay money to learn how to cook organic, healthy food. One might be how to shop, which supermarkets carry the best food. You could even offer a subscription service where food is delivered from a local organic farm. So loads of things you can do once that first sale has been made, but the real trick is to make sure that you've got another 50 people or another 100 people every day looking at that front-end offer. And this is why I think the passive income thing is a bit of a myth, because in order to get people consistently coming to your webpage, you need to be very good at organising that traffic, whether it's with joint ventures, email partners, whether you're doing a social media marketing campaign, whether you're doing paid traffic. That's where the real attention needs to be, is continually feeding the funnel, keeping people coming and finding people in different areas or different parts of the interweb who are interested in organic food or whatever the product might be.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Pat Flynn's kind of the banner man for, passive income. He's got his website, Smart Passive Income. And, on his website, you can find his story about how long it actually took for him to make money online, which I've linked to in the show notes. But essentially what, his story is, it took him about a year and a half to make his first $7,000 a month from his blog about lead certification. So I really, think that blogging is kind of like the slow boat approach to driving traffic, or it really can be, because I think a lot of people have a really hard time in getting those blog posts to actually go viral. I mean, some people do, but the truth is, even if you write scintillating content, if no one finds it, it ain't ever going to go viral.
Sure. And I mean, Pat Flynn, as you said, the banner man for passive income, how hard does he work?
He's working a lot, it seems. He doesn't seem passive at all. He's like hustling.
Yeah, I mean, he's putting out great podcasts. He's got a great website. He's got, a history of several different blogs that have been very successful. And he's worked damn hard all the time. I think that anyone who is under the illusion, maybe they've been promised this by a magical sales letter, that you could buy a product, click 6 buttons and money just appears in your bank account, that's less likely to happen.
With regards to someone who's interested in productizing their expertise and selling it online, either as an online course or, some kind of like digital download package, I think one of the biggest challenges people have that actually limits them is trying to get an understanding of when they are expert enough. Do you have any idea on, when expertise is valuable enough where a person can go ahead and try to package it up and sell it?
Sure. I mean, all information is valuable to the right audience, and this is the thing. I think I know some very successful guys who are in the 6 and 7 figure market, and they spend 20, 30 grand a year on coaching. So even if they're making 6 or 7 grand a year, 6 or 7 figures a year online, they still don't know everything. They're not the expert. They're expert enough to market to the people who are less experienced or less informed or less technically able than they are. I mean, a good question was, a lot of people like Pat, for example, was looking at a skill that he had in his day job that was trying to translate into his first product. If someone's prepared to pay you to turn up and do something, that something is worth value. So you could productize how you do that thing. So if someone, if you're an accounts professional, someone pays you to balance spreadsheets or accounting ledgers, then there's value in other people wanting to know how to balance ledgers. If you are particularly good at organising events and rallies and parties or, those kinds of things, there are other people who aren't good at that kind of organisation that will pay to learn how to do it. So if you can do one thing, there's probably a market for it. And that's the real trick, is that you've got to understand what the market for your product is, or the market for your skill set is. Because you could have the most amazing skill in, slightly silly example, you could make the world's best vegetarian dog food, but if you're only selling to cat owners, you're not going to make any sales. But if you had your first vegetarian dog recipe, so you're expert enough to have one recipe, you could probably sell that to people who have a vegetarian style lifestyle, that care about the food that their dog eats, and they're interested in something new for that pet's meal.
Okay, so yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Now, let's say another thing that holds people back is they and their immediate colleagues might know of their expertise, but nobody else outside their company, does, for example. So how does a person who has expertise but isn't really, known in their industry, beyond like the company that they might be working for, how do they gain credibility in their industry, and especially credibility to entice JV partners, joint venture partners, to work with them and promote their products?
Okay, two different questions. The first one, how do they create personal credibility for their skill? Demonstration. I think the best demonstration is not only that you can do something, but that someone you have taught how to do it can do it. Because if I'm an expert at conversions, that's great, you can hire me, but why would you buy a course from me if I cannot explain it in a way that someone who's not a conversions expert can get a result? And that's the big challenge, I think. A lot of people think it's about their personal credibility, when if you're marketing a product, the best advocation for your product is the results of a student, of someone who's bought your product and implemented it. So I would create a product and I would coach 3 or 4 people, probably for free if I'm just starting out, how to use my information to get the result they want, get their testimonial or get their case study. That would be the best proof, if you like, credibility for other future customers. Because in actual fact, the customer probably doesn't care about me and my skill. They care about their ability to get the result they want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
And going to the JVs, I think there are 2 types of joint venture partners. There are some joint venture partners who are interested in whether your product converts in sales. There are other joint venture partners who actually care about the quality of your product. So it depends who you're speaking to and what market. In the make money online sectors and, the sort of more height end of the internet marketing world, my experience, unfortunately, is most people care about the conversions of your sales page, how much money they're going to make, not about the quality of your product. However, there are some people out there who produce stunning products and they get talked about and marketed just because the product is so good. In the email, you mentioned permission marketing before. In that space, there are 2 names that really stand out for me. One's a member of the Dynamite Circle, a guy called John McIntyre, has an email marketing course, and he runs a site, Drop Dead Copy. Mm-hmm. Phenomenally good. Very blunt in his style, but it works for some people, it works for some markets. Another product in the same market would be Andre Chaperon's Autoresponder Madness. And I don't know anyone who's bought Andre's course and used it who hasn't told everyone about the course.
I gotta go check it out.
Without an affiliate commission, without a referral link, it's that good. I was at an event 2 years ago in America, and one of the speakers, a question from the floor came up about, how could they increase their email marketing, and the speaker said, buy Andre's course, then read Andre's course, then implement Andre's course. That's 3 steps to making more money with email. You could do the same with John McIntyre's course. They're different approaches, but they're both step by step. This is how you do email, this is how you understand your audience, this is how you write your copy, this is how you make your sales. So those are products I will happily talk about and promote because of the quality of the product. Now, I don't need to worry about the conversions because the product's so good it's going to sell. But some JVs will only speak to you if you can prove what your earnings per click are or how many sales they're going to make for every 100 visitors they send you. So you need to pre-qualify your marketing, maybe by sending emails out to your list or going back to Facebook and buying some visitors to come to your web page, so you can measure those numbers. So if the JV's interested in the statistics behind your launch, what we call priming the funnel, so I'll go and buy 500 visitors, get them to the website, find out how many of them buy. That's good market test. But that data can then be used to recruit joint venture partners, because I can say to a JV partner, a product I've just launched is converting at 7.5% on the sales page to relatively unqualified traffic. So that means 7 or 7.5, I'm not sure how you get half a person, but 7 out of 100 people who see my webpage buy. The market average for my industry is between 1 and 2%. So my page is performing 300 times better than the competition. So it means if a joint venture partner has the option of sending me 100 visitors from their email or someone else, if they send it to me, they'll get $700. If they send it to someone else, they'll get $200. That's not a difficult conversation to have.
Have you found that the whole advent of Google Gmail tabs has really impacted email deliverability, click-throughs, and opens?
Personally, no, but I've seen a lot of people talk about it. I think the people who are worried about that are tracking the wrong metric. What I've seen, and some people I know who've done more extensive testing on this than I have, is that I have a belief that if you write great emails and people want your information, they'll find it, they'll read it. So open rate, there are other changes that are affecting open rates at the moment, like Google caching images in emails, which the images are the thing that triggers the open in your autoresponder system. I do know a lot of people have ended up in the quote-unquote promotions tab. I read my promotions tab because I'm interested in some products. So I think people panic over a lot of things and are worried more about Gmail than the quality of the content in their email. If you read, let's go back to Andre's course, if you read Autoresponder Madness, he teaches a method of writing a series of emails he calls a soap opera sequence with a cliffhanger. So you're left wanting the next email. It's like waiting, 6 months for the next series of Game of Thrones or, the final series of Breaking Bad. There's a huge amount of anticipation. Now, I'm not saying that your email sequence is ever going to be that popular, but the idea is Andre teaches a way of leaving an open loop or creating an unanswered question that's like the 1950s TV. Tune in next time to see, how Batman escapes from his arch nemesis or whatever it is. So whether Gmail sticks my email in the promotions tab, whether it goes in the updates tab, whether it goes in the primary tab, I don't actually care because people are looking out for my content.
So we're about at the end of our segment. I'd love to close this interview off with a few final questions. One of the questions I love to ask of entrepreneurs is, just to help other people avoid the same mistakes that you might have made. So in your entrepreneurial journey, was there any mistake that really cost you a lot of time, energy, and money that if you were going to do differently, you would do differently, and what would you have done?
Oh, wow. I've made tons of mistakes. I mean, I make mistakes all the time. I think that's how we learn fastest. The biggest, I guess there's probably three, I would say, that if I had my time over again, I would switch around completely. The first one is the biggest one, is mindset. I was very successful when I first started producing information products. So when I judged success as in sales, so I had a tidy list. I built up a list from buyers only of about 440 people. Marketed only my own products to that list. I didn't get involved in affiliate marketing or promoting.
What kind of products did you sell?
Oh, one was how to create micro products from publicly available information. One was how to do a certain type of sales video. One was how to write a certain type of email. And I made an inordinate amount of money, like starting from scratch within, I think it was 10 weeks. I made something like $13,000, $14,000. And before I'd always had service businesses, so I'd sold my time or my team's time in coaching and things like that. But this was the first time I did product only, so digital products created out of thin air, and I made 5 figures in a couple of months.
How much were you selling each of these products for?
Some were very low value, some were sort of $17, $27, a couple were much more expensive, $400, $500. The challenge was, from a monetary point of view, it was very successful. I looked at my stats and I was speaking to my audience and I'd email them or get them on Skype or whatever, and I found that only about 5% of the people that bought acted on the information and got a good result. I launched one membership. I launched a program that taught people how to make a WordPress membership site using only free software. Because membership sites are a great way of building that recurring income. They're a great way of building community, and they're a great way of getting paid every single month for doing something. So there were lots of complicated scripts out there, and I found a way of building a membership site using only free software, free plugins. So I launched the product. It sold very well, $5,000, $6,000. And when I looked at the stats, 20% of the people that had bought the product on how to build a membership site hadn't logged in to look at the information. I was floored, and it sent me into a real tailspin. I stopped marketing information products because I was like, what's the point? 95% of the people who buy don't take any action. I felt guilty about taking funds from them for them not getting any result. It caused loads of personal issues because I'm all about value and about helping people and about inspiring people, and I couldn't even get someone who paid me money to learn something to follow on and implement the course. What I've subsequently learned, and I've spoken to hundreds of other people in similar situations, is that actually there's a massive disconnect between people who buy the content and people who implement the content. If I had my time over again, I would focus on that 5% very, very well. I would make sure they were serviced with everything they could, and I would do everything in my power to encourage the other people to get off their butt, get in the work chair and do some more work, but I wouldn't hold my own business back based on the fact that most people don't take action.
Okay, cool. I love that. Is your business your life purpose? And if not, what is?
I think. I've always looked at ways I can inspire and motivate, help other people do what they want to do. So the conversions business, I wasn't writing in my journal when I was a kid that I wanted to grow up to be a conversions expert. I don't think we knew what those were then. But I do like the fact that I get emails from people that comment on a recent Facebook post where someone I'd had a conversation with the week after Christmas, about 3 weeks ago, said, "Oh, just want to thank you. We had that conversation. I went and did this thing, and I made an extra $2,000 in the first week of January." That's superb. I know the downstream effect of that guy earning more money, what it will do for him, what it will do for his family, what it will do for his customers because he's now a more successful marketer. So I like to measure the impact in that sort of ripple effect of what can happen down the line. My personal purpose is all about, inspiring people to take action and just, I said, get off the butt and go do something they're passionate about. In many cases, we operate in a very commercial world, so you need to find a way to make sure you get paid, whether it's through your passion or get paid to support your passion. And that's what I really enjoy, is that I know I'm enabling people to go and do that, and the businesses that I build enable me to do some of the things I love to do. So I love to fly. I'm getting to see much more of the world through travelling at the moment with sort of a laptop lifestyle, and that's really cool.
Great. Well, I can tell you for a fact that you've definitely inspired me. So how can visitors, or how can our listeners best stay in touch with you?
If they want to learn more about how to generate more sales or generate more leads online, they can go to conversions.io, and there'll be information on there of how to contact me, also some free training content and some step-by-step guides for people to just get started.
Great. Well, thank you so much for this really insightful interview. Really grateful for your expertise, and you have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Thanks for your time.